Welcome back to Cooking with Kayla D. I'm Kayla D, and this is my husband Randy. Today we're going to be making organic brioche rolls for good friends of ours, Joe and Debbie. For today's recipe, you're going to need 3 cups of flour of your choice. We use Bob's Red Mill, the Arcerian flour, 1 cup of warm water, 110 degrees Fahrenheit, 2 tablespoons of sugar. We chose to use organic raw honey in place of that, 1 packet of active dry yeast, 1 teaspoon of salt. We used pink Himalayan, and 2 tablespoons of olive oil. We did use organic olive oil for this. Now that I have all my ingredients ready and I've got my bread flours, you can see the one I told you, the Syrian bread flour. It is the best if you choose to have gluten in your diet. It has a very little bit, so we just absolutely love it. So I've got my flour already measured out, my water warmed up, so I'm going to go ahead and put my water in there. This bread recipe is on the back of that bread flour, but I choose to cut it in half, and it makes perfectly enough for a family of 4. So now I've gone ahead and put my yeast into my warm water, and now I'm going to do my sugar, which we chose to use honey for our sugar. It needs to be real, either honey, pure organic maple syrup, or agave, or like coconut sugar, something like that, or cane sugar. You don't want to be putting sweeteners in here because sweeteners will not activate your yeast, and that's what you want. You want the yeast to be able to eat those sugars so that you can tell that it's actually good yeast. And that's what will happen here. After you mix it up really well and you get the sugar of your choice dissolved, you let it sit for 5 minutes and it will bubble up and foam up. If it doesn't foam up, then your yeast is bad and you need to start this whole entire process over. And you do this with any sort of dough bread recipe that has yeast in it. So now that we've let it sit 5 minutes, as you can see, mine's bubbled up. You can cover this and let it sit for 5 minutes in a warm spot. I chose not to today because my house is actually pretty warm, so I just left it out and it bubbled up just fine. It's a good yeast. So we're here making bread for Joe and Debbie, and I am so excited to see how this turns out for them. We're gonna do dinner rolls, brioche, and I just have a feeling they're really gonna love this one. I love cooking for them when I have time and I'm feeling good. But today it's on the rolls. Back to the recipe, Kayla. Back to the recipe. So after I have everything ready, I've got my dough hook onto my blender, my stand mixer, which is so much easier. I recommend getting a stand mixer. I got mine at Costco. It's a Cuisinart. It takes all of the KitchenAid attachments, and I got it on a deal at Black Friday for $130. So now you're going to go ahead and start adding in your flour. I do about 50% of my flour. So I will put in about 1.5 cups of my flour because the recipe calls for 3 cups. And I will get it actually mixing at that point and then start adding in everything else. But definitely only want to do about 50% of your flour to start off with when you're mixing. It just works so much better doing it this way. So you're going to lower your stand mixer. Be careful when doing this because you can hurt yourself with any stand mixer. So very much so, be careful. So then I get my salt. I'm going to go ahead and turn my stand mixer on. I want it, I think, on a 3 to start out because I'm just starting to get the flour in. I don't want it blowing out of there. Even though I do have a nice tall bowl on my stand mixer, I'm still going to do it at a lower setting. So I'm going to go on a 3 and put in my teaspoon of my Himalayan pink salt. You can use whatever salt you want. We choose Himalayan because it keeps our levels for our blood pressure and insulin levels spiking. I mean, the more your insulin levels spike, the more you retain fat. So next we're going to go ahead and add in our olive oil, and I did 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and we again use the Kirkland olive oil. Yes, we do shop at Sam's Club too. We love both. We're not biased on any store. We never will be like that. We believe in just supporting everybody, especially, in your own community. You want to do that. And every store has pros and cons. It doesn't matter, restaurant store, people, everyone's got pros and cons. So let's just be real. Back to the recipe, Kayla. So I just finished adding in my flour. I had to go get my little plastic piece because that little thing is a lifesaver. When you have your stand mixer down, it is so hard to get everything into the bowl without spilling out. You know what I mean? So this has been mixing for about 5-ish minutes now. I set the timer on my microwave. So I'm going to go ahead and take it off the dough, off the hook, and make sure I get every little piece of dough off. It should come off very easily because of the oil you had put in your bread. Then I'm going to go ahead and remove the hook from my mixer, have my glass bowl ready, because we're going to get ready for rising, y'all. And now I have my hook off. Oh, I want to show you something. So like I was telling you, this is like a really good mixer you could get at Costco or anywhere else that sells Cuisinart. But look at, that's your attachment place, and those KitchenAid attachments fit on that. So don't be scared to spend less, because this mixer is actually pretty amazing, and it was half the price of a KitchenAid. So, you know, choice is yours, to each its own. But there you go. I showed you, you know, what I know. But now I'm going to take my glass bowl, and you want a pretty large one, and I put my olive oil in it and swirled it around. I'm going to dunk my dough ball in there and then turn it over and make sure I've got oil all the way around that ball for rising. At this point, you want to cover it with either some saran wrap or a damp, wet towel, and you want to put it in a warm spot to rise. Me, I don't cover it because I put it in my microwave, and generally my microwave's pretty warm. So I just stick it in there uncovered, and then I set my timer for 30 minutes to check it at that point, but you do want to let your dough rise for a full hour if possible. And now that we have that rising, we're going to go ahead and work on getting our bread pan ready. As I told you, we're making brioche rolls, so I'm going to go ahead and take my parchment paper and get ready for that. I'm going to go ahead and just keep my parchment paper rolled up, because at first I unrolled it and started to cut it, and then I had that dingy little moment to where, like, why did I unroll it to cut a long strip for the outside edge of my pan when I could have just kept it rolled up and made one straight cut and it would have all been even? Like, hello, you know, who gets those mornings? I'm like that. I mean, come on, I'm not perfect. So anyways, I have my strip cut, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut one more, because now I know I can keep it rolled up and cut it. Hello. So I got that one cut as well. Sometimes it is good with these bands because they're so rolled up that you want to actually, you know, like you do your ribbon for your wrapping paper, and kind of on an edge, sharp edge, try to unroll, run it back and forth the other direction to get the roll unrolled. It will help when doing this. I didn't do it in this video, but I have done it in the past, and I don't know why I didn't think of it, because it was a little bit complicated to actually get it into the pan to stay, you know what I'm saying? So like, you'll see. But right now I've got another piece of parchment paper I pulled out and cut, and I'm just folding it into triangles, kind of like you're doing a paper airplane. You remember doing that? You did it for like when you were kids, for your grandkids, if you're a grandparent, whatever. Everyone's practically done a paper airplane. If you haven't, just keep folding it in half, making triangle, and you're fine. You just want to make sure you have a really fine point at the tip, because it's going to be the center for your rolls. Once you get it folded down pretty far, you want to take your pan that you're using, your round pan. If you're using round, if you're using square, you're not going to use this method. But if you're using round, you put the point in the center of the pan on the back, and then hold it. You want to fold it over so you don't lose that mark while you're grabbing your scissors. And then you want to cut inside the fold, not on the outside, because you don't want it to be too big and lipping up. You would rather not have, you'd rather have like that little gap in between the paper and the edge of the pan than to actually have it laying over it, because it will mess up the form of your rolls. So then I always feel for like the waxier side, because there is like a non-stick coating on parchment paper, and that's the side I put up. It helps keep whatever I'm cooking from sticking. And then the other side, the dry side, I leave down. Sometimes I'll put water in my pan to hold my paper, sometimes oil. This time, because I'm making this for the Jones family and we love them so much, and we just want to make sure that it's like turns out really well and it's prepared properly. So we actually took the step to actually do the Chosen Foods avocado oil for this, and that's the spray that we keep in our house, so that's what we're using. And we absolutely love that oil, by the way. No, we're not sponsored by them, but we love them. And we get ours at Costco too, in a 2-pack, because it's so much cheaper there. And like I said, I'm not biased about Sam's Club. I just really, 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 really like a lot of my oils and baking things from Costco, because they have more higher quality in that area. There are plenty of things we do get at Sam's Club you'll see in other videos, and they have better prices and deals in those areas. It just depends on what the product is at that time. So I went ahead and I sprayed my pan. I put my paper down on the bottom first, and then I went ahead and started doing my edges. If you need to cut little strips, and fit in there, whatever, go ahead and do it. If your edges are curling up, don't worry about it. Go ahead and just set your pan to the side, because once you start forming your rolls and putting them in there, it's going to hold the paper back anyway. And as they rise, it's going to push it all the way back. So you'll be fine. Don't worry about that. Okay, so we're going to wipe off our counter one more time. We wiped it off before we did the parchment paper, but I just, making sure. Anytime you're making food for anyone, you want to take extra precautions. Constantly be washing your hands, doing all that stuff. So our dough is ready. So I went ahead and I did rise it for an hour. I did 30 minutes. I kneaded it and I did 30 more minutes. I didn't let it sit the full hour. I did it in between. Because I'm making rolls, I decided to go ahead and go that route with it. It still is pretty oily on the outside from coating it with the oil. So now what I'm going to do is just keep rolling it into itself to get the dry dough from the inside out, to make sure we get that oil incorporated back into the dough and not just all on the outside. You don't want a heavy, oily, nasty dough. You want a dough that's fluffy. And if you see how it unrolls, see how that is? That's nasty. That's like a real heavy, oily dough. And to get it fixed, all you do is keep rolling the dough, tearing it. And I know in bread videos you'll hear, don't tear your dough. In this case, trust me, these rolls are going to turn out amazing. Tear the dough and get it rolled up until you feel that it's like a sticky, dry dough on the outside. Once you have a sticky, dry dough, then you're ready to go ahead and start cutting and forming your rolls. I don't have a precise thing on how to do that. I literally just wing it. So I get my dough knife out and I generally will start, and instead of cutting it like the short way, I cut it the long way in half, and that's just how I do mine. And then I just cut the outside edges off that are rounded, and I take those two outside edges and I will put them together, and I form logs. And when I'm doing rolls, I do 3 logs, because you think generally, it's like cupcakes almost. You want like a perfect set of 12 cupcakes. You want a perfect set of 12 rolls. You might have an oddball here or there, but that's how I look at it. So I take the outside parts, I meld them together and try to form a log as well as I can. But as I cut my dough and I start doing my rolls, I start realizing some are too big, some are too small. I have to cut pieces of dough off and, you'll see in the video. Anywho, so I take my rolls and I cut them. And then I just start tucking them under each other, kind of like when you're doing your kneading process. And you want to roll a ball, and you want to keep one side of that dough into your palm of your hand majority of the time, so it's perfect on the top. You pinch the ends of the bottom until every little crack and crevice is sealed. Once it's sealed, put it down. Don't worry if it looks a little funky, because it actually, as it rises and then bakes, it will actually cook those little funky parts out, and no one's going to notice that. You just want to make sure the top is really pretty. If it's too much dough, redo it. I do mine like I'm doing meatballs, like the size of a good meatball, or a golf ball in your hand. That's the size of the rolls that I do. It's not really, I've never measured it. I always just eyeball it, but that's how I do my dough, and I cut off the little pieces and I'll end up making rolls out of those. But then you just start forming around the edges first. You might end up having to move your dough balls, around depending on how many you end up with, but do like meatball size. Make sure to pinch the bottoms up. Don't forget that step. It's so important. So now we're just gonna fast forward, blah 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 blah, get through all this part. Just a lot of ball rolling. It just takes a little bit of time. I think I spent like 20 minutes doing that. Then I'm going to go ahead and rearrange my rolls now that all my dough is gone, to make it look as pretty as I can. Squish them around, put little gaps evenly in between all of them. And then that way, as they rise, they're going to rise up and look like beautiful. So at this step, you'll now want to cover your rolls, or like I do. I just stick them in the microwave and let them rise in the microwave. I don't turn the microwave on, but I will let them rise for 30 to 45 minutes in the microwave and see about how big they have gotten. And then we'll go on to our next step. And right here, you want to stop while your rolls are rising. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. When you're ready to put your rolls in, you're going to bake them for 30 minutes in the center of your oven and let them cool for 30 minutes before serving. They serve well with Kerrygold grass-fed butter. And no, I'm not sponsored by them. So now that it's been 30 minutes, we'll get our rolls out of the oven. And praise the Lord, they are so beautiful. They have risen, and they're going to get even bigger because they rise as they bake. Oh, I'm So excited. I just can't wait for Joe and Debbie to get these rolls. I just love cooking for them. They're so awesome. I wish I was healthy enough to cook for them more. They're amazing. So I get an egg. You need an egg for this. You need an egg. You do not want the egg white. You just want the egg yolk. If you use the egg white, I mean, it's not going to hurt it. But I'm telling you now, it's going to have like this shaded, like grayish yellow. It won't like be the brioche, like glistening dark golden brown. If you want that dark golden brown, like click, click, click on your crust, and you want it to be like brioche, you really do need to get rid of your egg white and just use egg yolk. And we use the pasture raised organic eggs. We love them. There's a local farm nearby here, about 45 miles away from us, that actually, and this is on the down low, they sell their pasture raised organic eggs to Walmart. And Walmart doesn't tell you that. And they put them in this little gray container that's like a paper cardboard container, and it just says Great Value on it. Those are actually organic pasture raised eggs. They're darker than any pasture raised egg I've ever gotten from any market, including the fresh market here. And I'm not saying anything bad about fresh market. I'm just saying they're amazing, and they're only $1.99 a dozen. So if you have a Walmart, get those Great Value little eggs. Most likely, I know at least in our area, we live in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, they are amazing. So anyways, you just scramble up your little egg yolk and then just start brushing on, and be very gentle. You do not want to puncture these rolls at all, because they will deflate and you'll lose what you rose, you know, when it rises up. So be very gentle with your brush. Do not use like a wiry brush or one of those straw brushes, because it does have a chance of hitting the roll. Use the plastic ones or the silicone if you can. I say silicone's much healthier for your body, but brush them on gently. Make sure to get all the way around as much as you can. If you can just get the tops and you're scared, you know, then don't do the sides, that's fine. But you just want to brush it really, really well. After you're done brushing, if you want to add something to it, like if you want everyday, like the everything bagel thing on there, the seasoning, you can put that on there. You want to do sesame seeds, black, white, gray, whatever. You can also do like bigger salt, like a rock salt almost. You can do that as well. I know we have done some with the sesame seeds and used them for like slider buns. We've also done some with the Redmond's Real Salt. It says fine grind on the bag, but it's not. It's actually a little bit more coarse. So we use that on top of them. They're really good, especially when you put your butter on. Oh my God, it's so good with a little bit of salt on the top. So at this point, you would also put your seeds or any topping on there that you would want before you throw them in the oven. Not throw. Gently place them in the oven. Gently place them. So yeah, this is what you do. You just cover them, and one yolk actually covers the whole bunch, and there's still a little bit of yolk left. So yeah, it's great. So just continue doing this, and then you get them into the oven. Now I've got my rolls in the oven. I'm gonna go ahead and put my eggs up, and I'm gonna clean my counter again. Yes, clean your counter again. And then I will be washing my hands and checking on those rolls. And remember, 30 minutes. I check my rolls at 25 minutes, but 30 minutes. Make sure you preheated your oven. They're done. They're done. What do you think? Are they beautiful? I think they're beautiful. You see what I mean about the yolks? And see how they poofed up more while they baked? See? So don't worry about getting that egg yolk all over the sides, because look, as it poofs, you can't get it in between each roll anyway. And so as it poofs, it's not going to cover the entire thing. Trust me, they're beautiful. They're gorgeous. And if you think that's the end of it, no, they even taste better than they look. Oh my God, for real. Look at those. They are delicious. I am so excited. I cannot wait for Joe and Debbie to get these rolls. I seriously cannot wait. I'm excited. I am so excited. This is so cool. So now it's time. We're going to build a form, because everything's about presentation, right? So I got this box from my Walmart order, and now I'm going to cut it and make a little platform for it to put the rolls on, to wrap it up. I'm so excited. So I get my box cutter out, and I cut my box. I'm so excited. Y'all, like you don't even know. This is going to be beautiful. This is going to be beautiful. I cannot wait for you guys to see them. I wish you guys could taste these rolls. That's all I got to say. OMG, look at that. So I took the cardboard, I cut it to a bigger square than what my actual rolls were. I wrapped it in foil, make sure to tape it underneath, and then I put some parchment paper, cut it round again, placed it on top of the foil. You don't want to just stick your rolls on top of the foil because then it's nasty. Then you want to take the rolls out, peel all the parchment paper off, put them on top of the new parchment paper. You want to wrap it in cellophane from the bottom up so people can just open the top, pull a roll out, and then cover it back up. But was that not the most beautiful rolls you've ever seen? You guys have to try this recipe. You have to try this recipe. I promise you, you will not regret it. It's simple, it's easy. Yes, it takes time throughout your entire day, but it's actually not that demanding at all. And trust me, your rolls are gonna turn out amazing. Thank you for being here with me, and my husband wasn't here today, but thank you for being here with Kayla D. We appreciate you guys on our channel. We hope that you come back again, and we hope that you find our recipes easy to where you can kind of elevate your cooking. I had to relearn how to cook. I've got lupus. I lost my memory, so I didn't know how to cook, and I've had to relearn how to cook the last couple of years, and YouTube has really helped me, and so now I want to give back and help other people. God bless you. We love you. Jesus loves you. Get out there and cook. And this is our disclaimer.
For I, the Lord your God, will hold your right hand, saying to you, Fear not, I will help you. Isaiah 41:13.